It's rare for just two riders to define an entire era in a sport, but that's exactly what happened in MotoGP with Marc Marquez and Valentino Rossi. These two didn't just dominate the championship, they split fan loyalties, rewrote reputations, and completely changed how people see rivalries in modern racing. And now, in 2025, that old debate is back in the spotlight. Marquez is chasing more records while Rossi remains the ultimate icon. But their falling out may have left a permanent mark on the soul of the sport. To really get it, you have to look past the races and focus on the relationships, the respect that was lost, and the legacies both riders were fighting to protect. After a dominant showing at Brno, Marquez was asked who would make up his dream MotoGP grid. His picks didn't just say something about his idols, they said something about the kind of racer he wanted to become. He named Dani Pedrosa, Jorge Lorenzo, Valentino Rossi, Casey Stoner, Mick Doohan, and himself. 6 legends, all totally unique, and only one of them ever actually beat Marquez to a title. Let's start with the one he's always said had the biggest influence on him, Dani Pedrosa. From 2013 to 2018, they were teammates at Honda. Pedrosa, known for his speed and precise riding, never managed to win a Premier Class World Championship, but Marquez has never held back in praising how much he learned from him. As he told DAZN, quote, "I learned a lot from Dani Pedrosa. He's the one I learned the most from about how to ride a MotoGP bike, what you need to do to go fast. I tried to ride like him, but with more strength and a bit more aggression." That contrast, Pedrosa's finesse versus Marquez's brute force, helped shape the style that came to define Marquez's career, and it's also what made his rivalries so explosive. When it comes to actual titles, only Jorge Lorenzo's beaten Marquez in a season where both were strong contenders. In 2013, Lorenzo pushed Marquez all the way to the final round in Valencia, but the rookie edged him out. In 2014, Marquez dominated, but 2015 was different. That year, Marquez struggled with an unpredictable Honda and made several costly mistakes. Meanwhile, Lorenzo and Rossi were locked in a title fight, and Lorenzo ended up taking the crown. That remains the only full season where Marquez was consistently fast and still lost the championship. Lorenzo never lost his sharpness, but it was their shared dislike for Rossi that twisted the 2015 title race into something far more intense and dragged Marquez into one of the most dramatic rivalries the sport has seen since the days of Biaggi. Funny thing is, it all started so innocently. As a kid, Marc Marquez had posters of Valentino Rossi on his bedroom walls. There's even a well-known photo of a young, wide-eyed Marquez grinning as Rossi autographs a miniature model bike. Just a kid, hoping one day he'd line up on the grid with his hero.
By 2013, that childhood dream of Marquez racing his idol had turned into a full-on battle. At the Qatar Grand Prix, Marquez and Rossi went bar to bar for second place. Rossi came out on top, and Marquez definitely took note. That moment lit the fuse. Over the next few seasons, the tension between them slowly built up. At Misano in 2014, Marquez made a rare mistake, which handed Rossi the win. Then came Argentina in 2015. Marquez tapped the rear of Rossi's bike and went down. A few races later at Assen, they clashed again in the final corner. Rossi ended up riding through the gravel, but still crossed the line first. These moments weren't just random incidents. They were signs of what was coming. It all led to the infamous showdown at Sepang. Rossi was chasing his 10th world title, a historic milestone. Marquez, however, wasn't in the title picture. He'd already dropped too many points earlier in the season. Rossi began to suspect that Marquez was deliberately helping Lorenzo by messing with his races. In Australia, Marquez actually beat Lorenzo, which made things even more confusing, but everything came to a head in Malaysia. During a heated early battle in Sepang, Rossi and Marquez went side by side into turn 14. Rossi ran wide, they made contact, and Marquez went down. What followed was total chaos. Rossi got slapped with a penalty that forced him to start from the back of the grid at the final round in Valencia. Lorenzo had a clean run to the title, and Rossi lost his chance at number 10. But maybe worse than losing the championship, he also lost whatever trust he had in Marquez. That moment changed the tone of MotoGP. Fast forward to 2018 in Argentina. Marquez's bike stalled on the grid. He restarted it the wrong way and got a penalty for it. Then, as he tried to fight back through the field, things got out of hand. He hit Aleix Espargaro and eventually found himself behind Rossi again. In the second to last corner, Marquez went for a hard move, too hard, and Rossi crashed. The aftermath? Absolute firestorm. This is a very bad situation, Rossi said, because he destroyed our sport. He doesn't respect anyone, never has. He went on to accuse Marquez of intentionally messing with other riders, Vinales, Dovizioso, and himself. And today he went straight into 4 riders, Rossi added. He does this on purpose. Marquez defended himself, saying, "I've never intentionally gone after a rider hoping they'd crash. What happened with Valentino was just a mistake. I locked the front. It was the track, not a plan." Intentional or not, the damage was done. Marquez even tried to go to the Yamaha garage afterward to apologize. They told him to leave. And later that year at Misano, in front of the press, Marquez offered a handshake. Rossi refused. From there, their rivalry just went cold. Even with all the drama between them, Marquez and Rossi were rarely on equal footing when it came to chasing titles. They never went head-to-head for a championship in the same season. But when it came to individual races, Rossi definitely held his own. He outdueled Marquez fair and square in several key battles. Qatar 2013, Misano 2014, Argentina 2015, Assen 2015, and Catalonia 2016. These weren't lucky breaks. They were sharp, strategic wins from a rider who'd been racing since Marquez was still in diapers. Still, the numbers are shifting. After his win at Brno in 2025, Marquez now sits at 70 Premier Class victories, just 19 short of Rossi's all-time record. And while Rossi still holds the edge in MotoGP titles with 7, Marquez is chasing his own 7th this season with 10 races still to go. If he pulls it off, the debate over who's the greatest of all time will get even hotter. Marquez also included Casey Stoner and Mick Doohan in his dream lineup, 2 riders who dominated in their eras. Stoner in particular could have changed the entire course of Marquez's career. Back in 2013, Honda actually thought about keeping Stoner and pairing Marquez with him. According to former Honda boss Livio Supo, the original plan was Casey and Mark, and we'd figure out what to do with Danny. But it never happened. Stoner walked away in 2012, frustrated with the politics in the sport, even after winning 2 world titles and racking up 38 wins. A Marquez-Stoner rivalry in the same team garage? Easily one of MotoGP's biggest what-ifs. Then there's Doohan. His 5 straight titles with Honda in the 90s set a standard that Marquez still hasn't topped. Injuries eventually ended both of their dominant runs, but in different ways. And even after stepping away from racing, both continued to influence the sport, either directly or through their legacy. What really sets the Marquez-Rossi feud apart from every other MotoGP rivalry is how deeply it cut into the culture of the sport. It wasn't just about battles on track or points on the board. It came down to clashing philosophies. Old school racing values versus the new guard's aggressive style. Personality versus precision, loyalty versus pure drive. Marquez started out idolizing Rossi, but once their ambitions clashed, something had to break. What broke was the innocence MotoGP once had. Since that infamous fallout in 2015, the divide among fans has never really healed. Even now, in 2025, crowds still boo when Marquez takes the win.
Every milestone Marquez hits still feels like it happens under Rossi's shadow. MotoGP gained one of its fiercest rivalries through them, but somewhere along the way it lost the lightheartedness that used to define the sport. Now, with 12 races done and Marquez back on top riding the Ducati, it feels like history is coming full circle. If he takes this year's title, and at this point it's looking more and more likely, he'll match Rossi's record of 7 Premier Class championships. By the end of the season, his win tally could realistically reach 75. But here's the bigger question. Does surpassing Rossi's stats mean Marquez has surpassed his legacy? Even Marquez seems unsure about that. In every interview, he still talks about Rossi with respect, calling him one of the greatest. He never claims to be the best himself. Still, the numbers are stacking up in his favor. The truth is, Marquez and Rossi weren't supposed to end up as rivals. Their story had the makings of something poetic. Young fan rises up, challenges his hero, and the torch gets passed. But racing doesn't always follow the fairy tale. Instead of building each other up, their rivalry tore through friendships, split the fan base, and completely changed what it means to chase greatness. Even though Rossi's no longer on the grid, the impact of their clashes still lingers over everything Marquez does. Some rivalries end when the race is over, but theirs, it changed the game entirely.